You're not afraid of being judged. You're afraid of losing your excuses. So let me say the quiet part out loud. You don't stay stuck because you don't know what to do. You stay stuck because doing the right thing will expose how long you've been hiding from the best version of yourself. So you tell yourself, I just don't want people judging me. I don't want to look like I'm trying too hard. I don't want to be that guy, that guy. So I'll just do it quietly once I've got a bit of momentum. But let me call it out. That's bullshit. You're not scared of judgment. You're scared of momentum, because momentum removes that safety net and you've got something you can actually lose then. Because once you start training, eating clean, getting sober, reading, meditating, journaling, discipline, you can't say life's just busy anymore. You can't say now's not the right time, and you can't even say that I'm just stressed, because momentum turns a spotlight directly onto you, and that terrifies you more than staying miserable ever could. So here's the lie that you've been living in. Here's the lie that most men live inside, temporarily and long term for a lot of people, that if I change, people will judge me. So let me correct that. People don't judge growth, they judge consistency. They judge men who talk big and act small. They judge men who say, this is my year, every single January, and then they look the same by July, and then they repeat it all again. What people actually respond to and respect is clarity and following through. And clarity only comes when your actions stop contradicting your words. I've had this conversation hundreds of times. Men in their late 20s, 30s, early 40s, good jobs, decent income, relationships, families, and on paper, they're doing fine. But inside, they're restless, quietly ashamed, knowing they're underperforming the person who they could and should be. And every single one of them says this kind of a different variation of, I just don't want to make a big deal of it. But the real translation I take from that is, I don't want to be exposed if I really try and truly lock in and fail. So let me tell you what actually happens when you decide to change. Because I'm speaking from lived experience here, not theory, from blood, sweat, tears. Because when I stopped drinking and doing drugs and started training properly, and when I locked in my routines and got properly disciplined with my days, instead of just winging them and hoping life would just magically fall into my lap, I expected judgment, but what I got instead was silence, then curiosity, then respect. People didn't mock me, not to my face anyway. They didn't try to pull me down, and they didn't tell me I was being boring. They actually started asking me questions of, how can you actually stay so consistent? What are you doing differently? Have you got any habits for me? You seem calmer, you look better. You seem to just have never-ending energy lately. And the ones who disappeared, they were never judging me. They were just protecting their own excuses, and it hurt too much. And that's the part that you're avoiding, because when you change, you become a mirror. And not everybody likes what they see when they look in the mirror. Let me tell you that for an absolute fact. Because your fear isn't social, it's identity based. And this is where this video starts to get uncomfortable, because you've built an identity around being the guy who could if he wanted to. The guy who's smart, but just hasn't focused yet. The guy with all the quote unquote potential, but momentum kills that identity, because once you start executing, potential stops being impressive. Results replace excuses and systems replace stories. And then there's nowhere left to hide. You don't fear judgment from others. You start fearing judgment from your future self and what you're either going to gain or lose from it. Because if you prove that you can be consistent, you'll never be able to unsee how long you've been choosing not to be consistent for. Because self-sabotage isn't self-hatred, it's actually self-protection. So this is going to sting, so listen closely. You self-sabotage not because you hate yourself, but because drifting from side to side, from thing to thing, keeps your hope alive. And as long as you haven't fully committed, you can tell yourself, I'll sort it soon. I've just been busy. I know what to do. When I decide to lock in, I'm going to have it. But the moment you lock in real momentum, the verdict starts forming. And that's exactly what scares you, because structure doesn't argue. Structure doesn't negotiate. And structure shows exactly who you are. And that's why you delay. That's why you overthink. That's why you keep planning and planning and planning instead of taking some fucking action. Not because you're lazy, but because you're avoiding the truth. And that's where the myth of I'll start quietly comes from in the first place. So let me kill another lie while we're at it. There is no quiet start. Every meaningful change feels loud when it's inside your head, even if nobody else notices. You think people are watching, but they're really not. They're caught up in their own lives. They're too busy worrying about themselves and their own bills and their own insecurities. And here's the brutal truth. If somebody does judge you for improving your life, that person's never been safe to take advice from anyway or give a fuck about them. You don't need approval. You need alignment within your own life. So here's how momentum changes how people treat you, whether you like it or not. But this is an absolute amazing thing to have as part of your life. This is the part that nobody really tells you. I've not heard anybody speak about it. When you build momentum, people listen differently. Conversations change and opportunities appear. Not because you're louder, but because you're grounded and focused, and momentum gives you weight. Self-trust gives you that presence, that aura that radiates. You stop explaining yourself, you stop defending your choices, and you stop seeking permission from every Tom, Dick and Harry. And that's magnetic, not in some Instagram quote kind of way, but in a real world, man to man, making eye contact, respect kind of way. Because you don't need confidence, you need evidence. Confidence doesn't come from affirmations, it comes from kept promises. Every day you don't do what you said you were going to do, your nervous system logs it and you remind yourself that your word means fuck all, and it whispers, careful trusting this guy. That's why you feel anxious. That's why you feel overwhelmed. That's why you don't back yourself when it really matters. Not because life's hard, but because you've taught yourself that you're unreliable. And momentum reverses that completely. One small, non-negotiable action, repeated daily, no drama. That's how self-trust is rebuilt. And it's not overnight, and it's not even loud. But it is permanent. And that's the real cost of staying the same. So let's get very real before we move any further. Staying the same doesn't actually feel dramatic. It feels comfortable. Monday, Tuesday night, same routine, same scrolling, same that I'm going to start tomorrow. The weeks blur, the months disappear, and years pass quietly. And one day you wake up more tired, more fat, more cynical, more bills and more numb. Not because life attacked you, but because you never attacked life back. That's the real cost. Not failure, not embarrassment, but gradual breakdown of everything that's inside you. And this is why I do what I do. I work with men who look successful on paper, but they know that something's off. Something's very, very off. Many were capable, intelligent and self-aware, but stuck in quiet self-sabotage. And it's not even because they're broken or lost or broken, the main thing, because they've never built systems that work on good days, bad days. Because I don't sell motivation or hype. I help men eliminate self-sabotage by installing simple daily systems that rebuild discipline, structure and self-trust. That's it. That's how you become unfuckwithable. Not louder, not harder, not more braggadocious, but more consistent. So here's the question that you can't dodge anymore. Here's a question, man to man. Are you actually afraid of being judged? Or are you afraid that if you finally commit, you won't be able to lie to yourself anymore? Let me say that again, because you won't be able to lie to yourself anymore. Because those are two very different fears. One keeps you small, and the other sets you free and lets you move forward and build momentum. So if this video is feeling uncomfortably accurate, which it must be because you've got this far into it, comment the word blueprint and I'll send you the exact system that I use myself and I give to all my private clients to eliminate that self-sabotage and rebuild momentum without relying on motivation. Or click the link in the bio. The link's there for you to download it for free. The Become Unfuckwithable Blueprint, because nobody's coming to validate your potential. You either turn it into evidence or you carry it quietly until it erodes and just rots away completely. Because people aren't judging you. They're waiting to see if you're serious, if you're going to fulfill your potential. And more importantly, so are you. So I'll see you in the next video, but don't bother clicking on the next video if you're not going to get the free copy of the Become Unfuckwithable Blueprint, the video that's changed the system that's changed my life and so many of my clients' lives. And if you need proof that it works, look at all the client wins and the testimonials on my website and on my social media. Men all over the world changing their lives with simple daily systems, because that's the only time you can really make any change. Today, here, now. So I'll see you in the next video. Let's fucking go.